02.17 a.m. local time. Strait of Hormuz. Grid coordinates 26.56 to 56.15 degree E. Sea state calm. Wave height under 0.5 meters. Visibility stretching 9 kilometers under a moonless sky. The first indication something is wrong is not visual, it's acoustic. Inside the Combat Information Center of the U.S. Navy Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, a sonar operator registers a transient spike, low frequency, fast moving, bearing 043 degrees. Estimated speed 180 knots, distance 11.2 kilometers. It appears and disappears within seconds. 3 seconds later, radar operators detect surface clutter, multiple small contacts emerging from the Iranian coastline, 17 fast attack craft accelerating to 45 knots, spreading across a 6-kilometer arc. At 02.1714, the ship's electronic warfare suite lights up. Radar warning receivers identify active targeting emissions from coastal batteries. At 02.1719, the first missile breaks the horizon, flying just meters above the water. At 02.1731, the destroyer begins evasive maneuvers. At 02.1802, the ship was hit. What sinks this destroyer is not one weapon, it is a layered, coordinated strike built around asymmetry. Iran combines 3 systems into one synchronized attack. Anti-ship cruise missiles traveling at approximately 0.8 Mach, around 980 kilometers per hour, with ranges up to 300 kilometers and warheads between 165 and 200 kilograms, each costing roughly $500,000 to $1 million. Fast attack swarm boats, small, difficult to detect, armed with rockets and machine guns, each costing between $200,000 and $800,000, designed to overwhelm defenses rather than destroy ships. And high-speed torpedoes capable of speeds over 200 knots, carrying around 210 kilograms of explosives, costing approximately $1 to $2 million individually. None of these systems guarantees a kill against a $1.8 billion destroyer. Together, within a 90-second window, they create saturation beyond defensive capacity. Iranian coastal radar tracked the destroyer continuously for 27 minutes before the strike, locking on at a distance of 42 kilometers. The ship maintains a steady course at 18 knots, assuming routine patrol conditions. 60 seconds before launch, targeting data is transmitted through encrypted command links to missile batteries positioned 12 to 18 kilometers inland. At 02.1710, 17 fast attack boats departed concealed coves along the Iranian coast. Their formation spreads wide to trigger early defensive responses and force radar prioritization errors. The destroyer detects 11 immediately. 6 remain below radar threshold due to low profiles and sea clutter. At 02.1719, 8 anti-ship cruise missiles launched from 3 separate coastal sites. They fly at altitudes between 5 and 10 meters above sea level, speed approximately 980 kilometers per hour, time to impact between 43 and 58 seconds. The destroyer's Aegis system responds in 2.3 seconds, launching 6 SM-2 interceptors at roughly $2.1 million each, and 2 ESSM missiles at about $1.5 million each. In seconds, over $16.2 million in defensive munitions are expended. 5 incoming missiles are destroyed, 3 continue inbound. At 02.1740, Iran activates shore-based jamming systems. Radar accuracy drops by approximately 18 to 22%. Not enough to disable systems, but enough to degrade precision. At the same time, swarm boats begin firing unguided rockets. They are ineffective against the hull, but force the destroyer's close-in weapon system to engage. The CIWS expends approximately 1/200 rounds in 14 seconds, dividing its attention between surface and aerial threats. At 02.18 2 remaining cruise missiles were engaged by CIWS. One is destroyed at a distance of 1.3 kilometers. The second penetrates defenses and impacts the port side at frame 112 just below the deck line. The explosion is equivalent to 180 kilograms of TNT. It creates a hull breach 4.6 meters wide. Fire spreads across 3 compartments. Power is lost in the aft section. While damage control teams mobilize, the earlier sonar contact becomes critical. A high-speed torpedo, launched 90 seconds earlier from a submerged platform 9 kilometers away, enters terminal phase. At 02.1834, it strikes below the waterline. The detonation creates a second rupture, 6.2 meters wide. Flooding begins at a rate of 1/200 tons per minute. Within 4 minutes, the ship lists 18 degrees to port. Systems begin failing rapidly. At 02:23 a.m., the captain orders the ship to abandon ship. At 02:31 a.m., the destroyer sinks. Total time from first detection to total loss is 13 minutes and 46 seconds. There are 312 personnel on board. 47 are killed, 63 are injured, 202 are rescued. One of the dead is Petty Officer First Class Daniel Reyes, age 29, with 9 years of service. Reyes is a damage controlman responsible for containing flooding and fire under combat conditions. When the first missile hits, he is 18 meters from the impact zone. He moves toward the fire. He leads a 3-person team into a flooded compartment, attempting to seal it from the inside. Water pressure rises to 3.4 atmospheres, enough to collapse internal structures. At 02-1912, he transmits his final report. Flooding uncontrollable, sealing from inside. 30 seconds later, the compartment collapses. Reyes does not make it out. His actions delay flooding by approximately 90 seconds, allowing 23 sailors in adjacent compartments to escape. This is not a surprise attack. It is a failure in threat assessment. U.S. intelligence estimates Iran's coordination capability at 65%. Actual execution reaches at least 85%. That 20% gap translates into a 12 to 18 second delay in defensive prioritization. The destroyer's systems are calibrated for high-intensity jamming, not low-level signal degradation. Iranian electronic warfare reduces radar clarity by around 20%, enough to disrupt targeting without triggering full countermeasures. That margin allows one missile through. The ship also maintains a consistent patrol route within a 22-kilometer corridor for 6 consecutive days. Iranian forces log 14 separate tracking instances. The destroyer becomes predictable inside a waterway only 39 kilometers wide at its narrowest point. Iran spends approximately $10.5 million on the attack. 8 cruise missiles cost around $6 million. 1 torpedo costs about $1.5 million. Swarm operations total roughly $3 million. The United States loses approximately $2.29 billion. The destroyer itself costs $1.8 billion. Onboard systems add another $400 million. Defensive missiles fired cost $16.2 million. Long-term medical and recovery costs are estimated at $75 million. The cost ratio is 1 to 218. For every dollar spent, over $200 in losses are inflicted. The Strait of Hormuz carries approximately 21 million barrels of oil per day, around 21% of global supply. Within 6 hours of the incident, oil prices rose from $78 to $112 per barrel, a 43% increase. Shipping insurance rates increased by 260%. 37 commercial vessels delay transit. A disruption lasting 72 hours at this level costs the global economy between $19 and $23 billion. Mainstream coverage will frame this as sudden escalation. What it will not emphasize is preparation. This operation requires 3 to 6 months of coordinated training, pre-positioned weapons within 20 kilometers of the strike zone, and continuous surveillance of U.S. naval patterns. This is not spontaneous, it is rehearsed. It will also be described as an overwhelming force. In reality, only 1 missile and 1 torpedo determine the outcome. Out of 8 missiles, only 1 penetrates. Out of nearly 14 minutes, less than 30 seconds decide everything. This changes the rules of naval warfare in constrained environments. It shows that a $10 million coordinated strike can neutralize a $2 billion asset. It shows that saturation, not superiority, determines outcomes. It shows that predictability is more dangerous than vulnerability. The Strait of Hormuz is only one of at least 7 global choke points with similar constraints, including Bab el-Mandeb, the Malacca Strait, the Suez approaches, and the Bosporus. Each presents the same risk profile. The question is no longer whether advanced navies can defend themselves. The question is whether they can defend themselves every second, against every angle, in every constrained space. The next attack may not involve 8 missiles. It may involve 12 or 20 or a different combination entirely, launched from a direction no one is watching. The story they are telling is about escalation and retaliation. The story I just told you is about vulnerability and cost. If you want more breakdowns like this with real numbers and clear analysis, subscribe to the channel.